speech of our university, which encapsulates the essence of our university. I request Banipreet to please play the Kulgeet and Saraswati Vandana.
या कुन्ते तु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा।
लाएंगे हम सच का सवेरा, गुरु कृपा का होगा बसेरा, विद्या की लो और लगन से हट जाएगा तेरे तुम घनेरा। इस तरह से आसमां
Share the presidential address with us. A leader is the one who sets the clear vision for the organization, motivate its students, and empowers to achieve milestones. Sir, and guiding force of our university. Before joining to university, Sir has served as director of Maulana Azad Institute of Dental Sciences. One can easily make the kind of energy and motivation by just knowing the fact that during his tenure at Maulana Azad Institute, it was awarded as Best Dental Institute in India. Sir has been designated a fellow of different organizations, including American College of Dentists, International College of Dentists, American Academy of Implant Dentistry, the International Medical Sciences Academy, the Royal College of Surgeons of England, the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow. Sir has received many awards like State Award from Government of NCT Delhi in 2001, BC Roy Award in 2007, and the highest civilian award of Padma Shri in 2014. The university is under your dynamic leadership, sir. We welcome you, sir. Over to you. VC, sir, we welcome you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, Anjali. Firstly, I want to know whether our panelists have joined. Have they joined? Our panelists have joined, or
I think,
have they joined?
sir, sir, Professor Sushma Yadav, she has joined.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah. Anyway, let us acknowledge them in absentia, Madam Rekha Sharma. In absentia, Madam Suran Kanta Sharma, Principal District and Session Judge in absentia, and we have Professor Sushma Yadav, Vice Chancellor of BPS Women University at Kanpur. I know because I know my earlier friend, Madam Mittal, she was a Vice Chancellor there. So it's such a pleasure that Madam Sushma is joining us this morning. And I think we are also waiting Professor Vinay Kapoor Mehta, another Vice Chancellor from NLU, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar NLU University. And we have our bunch of bright faculty here. You know, the task force, women task force, Saroj, Anjali, Kamal DP Singh, and Udita, Bunny Preet, and of course, Dr. Professor Anil Saini, Director Development, as well also Director of Indraprastha Internal Quality Assurance Cell. It's such a pleasure to be amongst you this morning. I know Saroj and Professor Saini, I know how they can arm twist you, even though you are tied up with things, but they, ensure that that you are, ensure that you are there. But it's such a pleasure always speaking to you. I know, see, in the last couple of months, I think 5-6 months I'm not very happy because we had elections to begin with. All of our staff was put on hold there during model code of conduct. They were posted, and then we had this lockdown. So I think we are almost non-functional for more than 6 months, and we have so much to do actually in the university. But nevertheless, these webinars and all these activities which we are carrying out these days, it is actually keeping you busy, also energizing you a little bit. And I must share that every time I hear this Kul Geet, it really gives you goose flesh, it really, I feel so much energized. And it's really, our university song is very, very encouraging, very energizing for everybody. And we all know it's a difficult time. We've, the entire world has seen one of the greatest challenges. In fact, I think never happened before, but it's also opportunity to introspect, identify, and correct our limitation, our shortcomings. It could be individual, it could be institution, or it could be a nation. And similarly, as we are, we are fraught with all these things, we also have a similar issues regarding, gender equality. And this is our chance to undo a lot of mistakes, lot of things which we have not been doing for generations, especially treating our women as our equals with respect and representation they truly deserve. It's said that we are not born equal, but we are all born unique. And equality is not the status of any individual, but a set of conditions that our society must always keep working on. So we must every time, it's not only just gender, but I think the society at large has to work so that the condition of equality is there at all spheres in the society. And for centuries, we have not been able to build a balanced picture of our civilization. And we have, of course, developed so much. We have progressed leaps and bounds, hoping to catapult into paradise. When you progress, you feel that, okay, you are going into higher spheres. One can call it a paradise, but the truth is that there will be no paradise if it is not for everyone. You cannot have a paradise in isolation, only for some select people and not for everyone. कोई भी देश यश के शिखर तक नहीं पहुंच सकता जब तक उसकी महिलाएं जो हैं कंधे से कंधा मिला के ना चलें. ये हम सब जानते हैं. मैं अपना एग्जांपल आपको देना चाहता हूं. I come from dentistry, and I have also been associated with the Dental Institute for almost 35 years. And how I have seen over the years how the profession of dentistry has been completely feminized. And because, I always used to make it very publicly state that if I had to choose between two equals, between a man and a woman, I would always go for a woman, because not just because of the choice, because of the merit, because they have all those attributes of skill, patience, intuition, and especially in dentistry, it comes to be very aesthetic. That sense they have. And probably this is the reason that we have so much of a woman force in our profession. And this is not just limited to dentistry. I think it is seen in the profession of medicine, arts and science. And I think आज जो है हम कह सकते हैं कि महिलाओं का योगदान, चाहे वो प्रशासन में हो, चाहे वो सेना में हो, चाहे वो अंतरिक्ष में हो, सभी क्षेत्रों में बहुत ही अहम है. And women are more resilient, more driven, and overall better performers than male counterparts. I always tell that men have so many distractions and so many other areas to work on. And I think as compared, most of the women, of course, we cannot make generalization, but they are very focused and they are very driven as far as performance is concerned. We all acknowledge their excellence and capacity to work hard. And also, I'm sure you have seen that WhatsApp message these days that all the nations which have been headed by women have managed COVID much better than the nations which have been headed by the men. Of course, this is on a lighter side. So in the same breath, we can say that women all over the world are suffering, or can we say struggling many times more. आज भी महिलाओं को पुरुषों के बराबर अधिकार नहीं मिल रहा है. उन्हें अपने अधिकार के लिए लड़ना पड़ रहा है. They are not only battling this pandemic like the rest of us, but there is at an increased risk of various socio-economic crises. For example, the rate of domestic violence has risen, women's mental health been affected, and the most pressing concerns are women's health, women's rights, women's mental health, and women's economic empowerment. And all these problems are interconnected. I want to share with you that I've had my early childhood, early schooling in a very primitive gaon, and I have studied there till 8th in Himachal Pradesh, in a very remote village which had no electricity, no water, no school, and no any sign of a kind of a modern civilization. And I have seen how the women have been also the strength of the family, and also same time I have also seen how the women have been maltreated. They have been at the receiving end. So however, before we deliberate on their mitigation and recovery, we also need to assess the bigger picture. For instance, have national policy been sufficiently gender neutral? All those policies which we have made or which are in pipeline, are those gender neutral? In a developing country like ours, women often suffer from things like malnutrition, lower immunity. Those who belong to lower socioeconomic class, or they are single parents, they belong to or they belong to any minority community suffer even more. We have seen that because we still look at them very differently. Nearly 70% of our women work in informal economy. They don't have any formal economic measures and do not have the capacity to absorb the economic shocks. So they are at a greater risk of falling into poverty, and the loss of financial independence makes women vulnerable to further exploitation and abuse in their domestic lives. So let us all do our bit to sensitize individuals and communities toward the harshness on women and work towards addressing the long-standing inequalities. We must support our nation in drawing up plans and coordinating efforts between local governing bodies, civil societies, organizations, and mental health organizations to ensure women's safety. This is not only about combating inequalities, but also building a more resilient and a just world which is very just and true and honest for everybody else. Remember, discrimination wins when the discriminated against gets distracted by it. So let us stand firm on our efforts to create a very balanced and a long-lasting structure of our society. As we stand in the middle of this historic inflection point, and we don't know for how long it will last, our collective response must be equally historic and urgent. महिलाएं किसी देश के विकास का मुख्य आधार होती हैं। वो परिवार, समाज और देश की तरक्की में अपनी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाती हैं। Time and time again, women have proved to be the backbone of recovery in communities as they sustain their families, households, and communities during the difficult times. And we have seen in these days how the women force have kept us all, safe and caring in our homes. They need to be included and represented in economic planning, policy decision making, and emergency response planning. वो साहिर लुधियानवी का वो फेमस गाना, लैंडमार्क गाना, आई एम श्योर ऑल ऑफ यू रिमेंबर, रात भर का है मेहमान अंधेरा, किसी के रोके रुका है सवेरा, रात जितनी भी संगीन होगी सुबह उतनी ही रंगीन होगी, गम न कर गर है बादल घनेरा, किसी के रोके रुका है सवेरा. So nothing, I'm sure, nothing can stop you from going places and prove yourself, and change is imminent and will surely going to happen. And I take this opportunity to my best wishes to all the panelists, very high level panelists we have today for discussion about gender equality, and also especially like to thank and appreciate all the organizers, Professor Saini, Professor Saroj Sharma, Professor Kamal DP Singh, Professor Udita, Dr. Anjali Shaukin, and Madam Banpreet. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm sorry I will not be able to sit through you and during the entire panel discussion, but I understand the importance of it, and I give you my best wishes, and also wish you that you all succeed in all your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for recognizing the efforts of the women. I really respect your views. Your words of wisdom always support and encourage us. We are really thankful to you, sir, for taking your valuable time for us from your busy schedule, as we know that you have to go for an urgent assignment of government. Thank you so much, sir. So now, moving ahead, I would like to invite Professor A.K. Saini, Director Development and Director IIQAC, to deliver the welcome address. I would like to share his notable achievements. Professor A.K. Saini carries a blend of industrial and academic experience of more than 30 years. He has visited Europe under teacher exchange programs for teaching courses. He has been proactively involved with professional associations and elected as Vice President, President-elect of Computer Society of India. Sir is also life member of All India Management Association and Operational Research Society of India. Sir has also awarded the Fellowship Award in 2019. We welcome you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Anjali. Uh, at the outset, let me welcome all our panelists who have joined us and those who are going to join shortly. So first of all, good morning to all of you. Uh, the theme of the panel discussion which we have today is on gender issues and women's rights. I think if you look at that every child, irrespective of the sex, uh, deserves actually the full potential to be exploited, that to come out. But gender inequalities in our life, they basically stop us or they hinder their development and achieving this reality. Despite the fact that the Constitution of India that grants men and women equal rights, but gender disparities still remain, and we have seen over the years it is still continuing. The Constitution grants equality to women, ensures equality before the law, and prohibits discrimination against any citizen on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. It also allows personal laws, however, resulting in a dual system. Because if you look at the personal laws, because dual system that allows forms of discrimination against girls and women. Like under civil law, for example, the maximum age for marriage is 18 years for women and 21 years for men. But in Muslim personal law, the same clarity is missing. So this is how we find that this kind of uh, discrimination actually gets into place. If across India, general equality results in unequal opportunities, and while it impacts the lives of both the genders, statistically it is the girls actually who are the most disadvantaged. Even the research studies have also shown that gender discrimination mostly in favor of men in many realms, including at the workplace. And we all actually find that at our workplaces also happening. Wherever they live in India, girls or boys see gender inequality in their homes, communities every day, even in textbooks, movies, media, and among the men and women who provide their care and support. On a lighter side, even we find that what we are doing or the governments are trying to do, that also gets into this action. Like said, the recent decisions which have seen that in the metros and buses, the women would be getting a free ride or reserving some seats for women. I think these are basically again placing on record that we need to discriminate and treat them differently. Even if you look at in the lighter side again, the COVID data, I think the COVID-19 has not impacted both male and female equally. The studies have shown that the death rate is lower in women as compared to men. The discrimination affects both in many aspects in the lives of women, from career development and progression to mental health disasters. And the decision of the government to this is what I mentioned. According to UNICEF, poverty and culture beliefs that cause discrimination against girls are some of the major factors behind gender inequality in education throughout India. And another barrier which we find in education for girls is basically lack of sanitation in schools and all that. But the question is why we're talking of gender equality? Why is it so important for us? So gender equality, if we find again from the data, it's basically linked to the sustainable development and is vital to the realization of human rights for all. So with the overall objective of gender equality, we are looking at a society in which women and men, they enjoy the same opportunities, rights, and obligations in all spheres of life. Some cases we find which actually are success cases of Indian women who have become global leaders and powerful voices in the diverse fields. But most women and girls in India do not fully enjoy many of their rights due to the deeply entrenched patriarchal views, norms, traditions, and strictures. So women are also getting less economic opportunities, what has been highlighted by our Vice Chancellor, Professor Mahesh Verma also, than men due to the various reasons. In villages, women do most of the housework and other unpaid work and have no time to do outside jobs. But for the urban women, even when they get jobs, there's a concern about the safety of transport from the family, low pay, sexual harassment and workplace and all that. So I think these are some of the concerns which we find. And if you look at the data which has been released by World Economic Forum, India is at the bottom of the pile. The gender gap index has basically is very, very low. Even low in comparison to the smaller countries like China, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, and Bangladesh also. So we find that we are very lowly placed. And now the question is, how do we, or how and what do we do about it? I think that there are some ways we can really, in my opinion, we can really take up, which actually is going to promote gender equality in daily life, like share household chores and childcare equally. We find in the current generation, this task is being taken equally by all, that we both the parents, they try to work together, especially in the nuclear families, watch for signs of domestic violence and that try to take such cases, support mothers and parents, reject the racist attitudes, help women gain power, listen and reflect, hire diversity, pay and demand the same salary for equal work are some of the cases which actually will help us to minimize such instances. But I think nevertheless, we have very experienced panelists with us who are going to really enlighten us on this about the experiences, but as in the terms of this social fabric system and the legal system, how do we handle this kind of thing so that we are able to realize the dream of having equal opportunities for both men and women. Thank you so much. And I again thank our panelists for joining us and giving their time for educating our audience, the attendees who are going to benefit from this event. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, sir, for the welcome address and the reports of researches regarding the men and women which are undertaken by the researchers. You have shared the different types of problems which they are facing, which the woman has facing in the current scenario. We really need to sensitize the issues related to women. Your involvement and interest towards the university has been a great support for us. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite Professor Sarosh Sharma, an amazing personality in the field of education, to share the theme of the panel discussion. Professor Sarosh Sharma is a member of many educational involved in projects of UNICEF, UNESCO, NCERT, ICSSR. Ma'am is also member of different advisory committees, board of studies, research and academic councils of many universities and apex bodies of India and abroad. She is regular counselor and resource person of various educational programs on radio counseling and teleconferencing through EduSet, Swayam and Swayam Prabha, digital portals of MHRD. She has been a member of committee constituted by NCTE for the formulation of new education policy 2016 draft under the umbrella of MHRD. She is also the part of standing committee of NCTE and chairperson of Open Educational Resources Committee. We welcome you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Anjali. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and two eminent Vice Chancellors, neighboring Vice Chancellor, women Vice Chancellor, who are also known for their substance academic work and good work in the area of women's studies. Two other panelists are about to join after 12. Dear participants, faculty members, Professor Saini, my fellow colleagues, warm welcome and greetings from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. We are today assembled here to discuss a very prominent issue, and recently there was a news that women are suffering a lot in this COVID-19 period, and there was a letter received from UGC to us to just work upon how in educational area, in academic field, how stakeholders of education sector can think and do something positive in this area. The theme was gender bias and stereotyping and gender equality and women rights. When I see the history of women in our country, there is a shlok, अथ शिक्षा प्रवक्ष्यामः मात्रमान पितृमाना चार्यवान पुरुषो वेदः. जब तीन उत्तम शिक्षक अर्थात एक माता, दूसरा पिता और तीसरा आचार्य है, तभी मनुष्य ज्ञानवान होगा. From this stage to today's scenario where we discussing ऊपर नीला आकाश है पूरा, नीचे धरती का आंगन भी पूरा, फिर हक क्यों मिले मुझे अधूरा, मुझे भी हक है जीने का पूरा। ऊपर नीला आकाश है पूरा, नीचे धरती का आंगन भी पूरा, फिर हक क्यों मिले मुझे अधूरा, मुझे भी हक है जीवन जीने का पूरा। जब हम हक की बात करते हैं तो यहाँ पे नारी की जो स्थिति है, जो समीक्षा है, this is a global issue. It is not only in India. Even UNESCO has developed various development plans for women, and the Sustainable Development Goals, that is Millennium Sustainable Goals, Millennium 2030 goals, also discusses about it, and we have to achieve these goals. Recently, UNICEF, UN Secretary General said in April 2020, I will quote, that limited gains in gender equality and women rights made this decade more vulnerable, and the danger of being rolled back due to this COVID-19 is coming. Gender-based violence is should be mitigated and reduced, and few goals which he discusses, that social protection and economic stimulus should be given, and people support practice, not only preaching, that should be given. And third one is women and girls should lead to participate in COVID-19 task force also, and data preparation should also be done in this area. So UNESCO is doing this thing, our UGC has given certain guidelines, and UGC has also doing many things in the field of academic sector. I will quote, one program is Saksham, and another is Gender Champions. Few years back, Gender Champions program was launched by UGC, where such kind of workshop, seminars, university were suggested, different universities, whether it is state, private or central university, that they should come forward in this area, and universities were asked to set women cell and women task force in their campus. And several others programs like workshop, conference, seminars, they were also in the agenda of UGC. And in line to these recommendations and guidelines, GGSIP University is doing a bit in this area. और शायद इसी का परिणाम है कि हमारे बीच में इतने सक्षम वक्ता मौजूद हैं, जिन्होंने, मुझे याद है प्रोफेसर यादव ने विमेन स्टडीज में काफी काम किया है, महिलाओं के क्षेत्र में काफी वोकल रही हैं, और इसके पहले भी हमें उन्हें सुनने का अवसर मिला है। विनी जी के बारे में मैंने सुना है। और एक चीज जो मैं आपसे कहना चाह रही हूँ, आज ही मेरे पास नेशनल कमीशन फॉर वुमेन से रेखा शर्मा जी का फोन आया, उनके घर में कुछ मिसहैपनिंग हो गई है, तो बहुत ज्यादा वो परेशान थी, तो शायद वो आज ना आ पाए, लेकिन फिर भी उन्होंने कहा है कि उनका प्रयास रहेगा कि प्रोग्राम के अंत में वो कुछ देर के लिए सही जुड़ने का प्रयास करेंगी। And also we have one session just today, Madam Sharma. So I hope आज का ये session बहुत ही ज्यादा enchanting रहेगा, और हम कुछ guidelines तय कर पाएंगे। As university, we have to make certain footprints, we have to make and follow the traditions which Indian heritage has, what UGC is giving, and overall as stakeholder of education sector, because I always say education is a service sector. We are nurturing human race, we are not producing goods to the society. For the sake of this human race and the half of the population, अर्धनारीश्वर की कल्पना हमारे यहाँ की गई है यहाँ, और इस कार्यक्रम का उद्देश्य पुरुषों का विरोध करना नहीं है, क्योंकि हमारे वांग्मय में भी अर्धनारीश्वर की बात की गई है। एवरी मैन हैज सम फीमेल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, एंड हमारे यहाँ फीमेल में भी दुर्गा और काली का प्रावधान है। तो हम सिर्फ एक नेगेटिविटी की बात ना करें, क्या हुआ क्या नहीं, और पुरुषों को दोष देना मुझे नहीं लगता एक सही बात है, क्योंकि वी हैव टू चेंज द मेंटालिटी। जब तक हम माइंडसेट को नहीं बदलेंगे और अपने घर में बच्चों को नहीं सिखाएंगे, मुझे लगता है कि विमेन आर ऑल्सो इक्वली रिस्पॉन्सिबल। अगर अपनी राइट्स के लिए नहीं खड़ी होती हैं, अपने बच्चों को शिक्षित नहीं करती हैं, जैसे मैंने श्लोक में भी कहा है कि जो माँ होती है प्रथम शिक्षक होती है, तो एक जेंडर डिवाइड, वी डोंट इंटेंड टू मेक अ जेंडर डिवाइड ओवर हियर, वी हैव टू चॉक आउट प्लान्स, कैसे हम जो 50% हमारा जेंडर है हमारे समाज में, हम उसको कैसे लाभान्वित करें। एंड विद द रीसेंट रिपोर्ट जहाँ पे हम डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस की बात की गई है और बहुत कुछ women सफर कर रही हैं, how to be helpful, and that too in education sector, because we have non-teaching staff, teaching staff, we have affiliated colleges and IP university. So this program, this theme aims to that also, how to create a sustainable, happy environment and also unbiased atmosphere in any organization. That is main motive of this program, and I'm hopeful that participants will be motivated to with the motivational words of our eminent speakers. Thank you very much, Anjali, and my heartfelt thanks to our eminent speakers and all the listeners. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Anjali,
ma'am.
kindly unmute yourself.
Yes, yes. Yes, ma'am. My voice is coming, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, you are audible. You are audible.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us about the theme of the panel discussion, which is the dire need of the hour also. Ma'am, we really need to discuss about the equality of women's rights in the society. Thank you so much, ma'am, for enlightening us. Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to introduce our panelist of the day, Ms. Swaran Kanta Sharma. We welcome you, ma'am. Presently, Ms. Sharma is District and Session Judge in North District, Rohini, an alumna of Daulat Ram, graduated in English Literature, and also holds a Certificate of Merit issued by National Service Scheme, the University of Delhi. Ms. Sharma has completed LLB in year 1991 and became a magistrate at very young age of 24 and session judge the day she turned 35. She is Fellow of Commonwealth Judicial Educational Institute, Canada. She has authored many books like Don't Break After Breakup, Old Age Beyond Bagban, Tumhari Sakhi, Love Full Circle. All these books address the societal issues which are prevailing in our society. We welcome you, ma'am. Over to you.
Anjali,
Ma'am,
madam nahi hai. I think she's not joined so far. Maybe Professor Yadav.
not joined.
अंजलि जी, प्रोफेसर यादव पहले बोलेंगे, उनका कुछ फोन आया था, अभी 12 बजे वो हमें ज्वाइन करेंगी. प्लीज यू इनवाइट प्रोफेसर सुषमा यादव, बात हो गई है उनसे.
Okay, ma'am. So today we are having with us Professor Sushma Yadav, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bhagat Phool Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya, Kanpur Kala, Haryana. It's an honor to have you, ma'am, with us. Earlier, ma'am has served as Pro-Vice Chancellor of Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. Ma'am is well-known academician and academic scholar, eminent scholar. She is recipient of Rai Bahadur Gauri Shankar Memorial Medal. She has also directed the first 2 Indian modules of Foundation Training Program for Bangladesh Civil Servants sponsored by Bangladesh Public Administration Training Center. Professor Yadav was one of the members of IIPA's 5-member delegation who visited CLAB for a workshop on China Forum sponsored by China Executive Leadership Academy. We welcome you, ma'am. Over to you. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I am audible. Professor Sushma Yadav, ma'am. We welcome you, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All
You are
right.
audible. Yes, you are
Okay.
audible, ma'am.
You are Anjali or you are Bani?
Yes.
You are Anjali?
Anjali, ma'am.
Okay.
Anjali.
Anjali, didn't take my CV from my university. I think you took it from the website. So
Yes,
it happens
ma'am.
to be 10 years old, but that's fine. And I think you should
No,
update
no,
when you
ma'am,
must
I really apologize.
an updated CV of a speaker when you invite, but that's fine. It's a pleasure Honorable Vice Chancellor, GGSIP University, and Padma Shri and very eminent dentist, Dr. Mahesh Verma. My fellow panelists, Ms. Rekha Sharma, Honorable Chair, National Commission for Women, Ms. Swan Kanta Sharma, Honorable Principal District Judge, and my very dear colleague and friend, Professor Vinay Kapoor Mehra, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar National Law University, the Program Director of this program, Professor A.K. Seni, Director Development and Indraprastha IIQAC, Advisor of the program, Sri Ravi Dadhich, the Registrar of the University, the conveners and the three conveners, one dear friend also whom I know, Professor Saroj Sharma, Professor and former Dean, University School of Education, Professor Kanwal G.P. Singh, Director, Legal Aid Center of the University, Professor Udita Taneja, Chair, University Complaint Committee, and the program secretaries. I like this style of organizing committee, where you have Dr. Anjali Shokeen, Assistant Professor, Dr. Amit Sharma, again, Assistant Professor on Management Studies, and the student joint secretaries, Ms. Rajani Upadhyay and Ms. Manipreet Kaur, and all the participants of this webinar. It's a pleasure to join you in this webinar, which has been organized by the IQAC of the IP University and the Task Force for Women of GGSIP University. The theme is really very, very topical and important, gender equality and women's rights. And I wish to begin by complimenting the organizers, the entire organizing committee, its leaders, I would rather say, the program director and the patron, Honorable Vice Chancellor, who I heard, and I'm happy to know that he had visited this university earlier prior to me, and I really wish to extend my warm and cordial invitation to him again. Please convey to him, if he's not there, Professor Seni, that he is invited to this university again. I'm sure he'll be very happy to see the growth and the vision of this university, how it has evolved. And we'll all love to have him here. Sure. And I also wish to compliment and appreciate the concern expressed by University Grants Commission, of which I happen to be a member till last 2 months, and which has taken cognizance of the fact that COVID-19 has created certain problems for women, which are specific to women, and for girl students who are into distant areas of the country, and therefore shot this letter to all the universities that they must organize these webinars or panel discussions or seminars are now webinars, of course, or talks, their concerns. And you have been really very, very quick in organizing this and calling a real good panel. I'm happy to know Swan Kanta shares my alumni, that is Daulat Ram College of Delhi University, which I also happen to share. And I think you have invited very thoughtfully an activist to academicians. I can say Vinay also partly activist because she was Information Commissioner also for this, and to academicians and one judge, because this is how the profile gets completed. Now, the issue is women, gender equality and women's rights. We don't say gender rights. So on one side, we say gender equality. On the other side, we say women's rights. Why do we talk about women when we talk about gender? Because women is felt, and as Professor Seni also shared when he delivered his welcome address, and then Professor Saroj Sharma and earlier the Honorable Vice Chancellor tried to bring out that women have equal capabilities, but they are not recognized equally in worth. And how does it get reflected? They constitute the world's half population, of course. In India, the ratio is a bit dwindling, but otherwise they are 50% of the population. And the world becomes beautiful only when they are 50% of population. It gets complete with that. They perform nearly 2/3 of the work. They receive only 1/10 of the world's income. They own less than 1/100th of the world's property. And they comprise more than 60% of the world's illiterate. I'm talking about the world. And they also comprise almost 70% of the world's poor. So how does it go like this? That they are 50%, but they're nowhere 50% when it comes to assets, when it comes to income, when it comes to recognition, and when it comes to being educated and getting a proper employment and proper income. This data makes us think and get worried about why women have come to this position. And then there is an issue of harassment, discrimination, violation, and ultimately violence against women, which also comes out of this. And the purpose of all that is also to put them behind or keep them behind the status of equality. And therefore, the world started thinking about it. Since I'm the first speaker, I would briefly mention why it happens and why it so happened. Because in India, and I'll come to that later also, Indian civilization talked about women as the basic power, Adi Shakti, we call her, and also Ardhanarishwar concept, which Professor Saroj Sharma did talk about, and Professor Mahesh Verma, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, also referred in beautiful song by Sahir that, of course, the world will change and the women will be recognized. Sahir has another very beautiful poem on women, or a song on women, which talks about women's worth much more than this, and where he says, "Ki aurat ne banaya mardon ko." And that is the, I think, gist of the women's power, that women are more than equal. They're not less than equal. They can do everything that men can do, but they can do more than men because they can procreate. They can, in fact, give birth to a new life or create a new life. And this must be understood. But what happened is, in India, I think her origin is also very, very respectful, because she comes in the world for harmony, for beauty, for creating a good life. But in Western civilization, the woman has come out of sin, the Adam and Eve sin, committing the sin. And then it's also said in Bible, and I'm sure we must all read about it, that she comes out of the rib of man. She was created of the rib of the man for the pleasure of man. And from here, the problem starts. Because if the woman comes out of a mere piece of a man's body, then naturally she's a lesser person. And she comes out for only entertaining the man, then she's also a less person, because then she should be a thinking human being. And therefore, feminism starts in West, because then this kind of understanding and conception about women kept them behind. So in most of the European countries, women had to fight long battles for getting their right to vote, which was a basic political right, their right to movement, their right to education. If you look at the struggle that Oxford had to, the women had to do to enter Oxford or enter any higher education institution, you will come to know why feminism started there. And therefore, feminism itself started in West for advocacy of women's rights on the ground of equality of the sexes. And to do it because their origin itself was difficult and was partial. And so they started, facing inequality all over the world again. In Europe, it was voting rights. America and Europe both. They took, they had to wage long battles, and history is the evidence. You can go through it. Then in Chinese civilization, it was, foot binding and keeping them in a shape which pleases men, etc., etc. And then many other evil practices, triple talaq in, of course, Islam, and many other evil practices in India, which emerged over the years, like sati, child marriage, etc., etc. And so women's rights became one very, very important issue for feminism. And then it started overall in France, Netherlands, Great Britain, and ultimately it came to America in different waves. It's said that there are 4 waves of feminism: 1848, 1963, 1993, and 2012. And the first wave talked about women's rights. And these women's rights were in the Seneca Falls Convention in New York, and women in America took lead here. And there was a book story behind. It was like the World Anti-Slavery Convention, which started in 1840, and where women were not allowed to participate. We can also go to old Greece, and we find in the ideal state of Plato, education students must have read about Plato. Women do not find any position. They were just like slaves, so they were not citizens also. We do not find that kind of situation in India. But over the years, here also practices came up, which I'll come to later. And so the West started with declaration of sentiments, list of resolutions in terms of rights, which included equal rights for women, their own rights on their property, and majority wanted their right to vote. So hated very much, resisted very much, and given much later towards the 19th century middle or towards early. So finally, it was only 68 women and 32 men who signed the first Seneca Falls Convention about women's rights. And you can imagine what a minuscule it is. And that's why even now, America is finding hard to accept a woman president. India and other Asian countries have done it much faster and much earlier. That is the basic difference of civilization and the understanding of position of women. We must always keep in mind. So then the West continued to talk about the feminist mystique and the feminist conventions. And it became so much ultimately with the third and fourth wave that it started, hating men, and kind of a negative movement started. But that can never really lead us to asserting and enjoying our rights. We can, but enjoyment of rights will come only when the entire society accepts it and they understand the value of these rights. And therefore, I'll focus on that. In India, when we talk about women's rights, then if we look at the Vedic civilization, they enjoyed high status, respect, freedom, safety, because there were Brahmavadinis, there were Acharyas, there were Rishiputris, there was Rishikas, and they had right to choose a boy. You have heard about Swambers, and they had right to reject also, which was a real liberation. They had a right to remain celibate. They had a right to get married. All these were there. And the Mahabharata period, by then, it was almost like a matriarchy, because we have heard about Kunti Putra, Gandhari Putra, Rukmini Putra. The sons were known by the names of their women. We also come across Satyavati and Jabala episode, where a woman who is engaged into entertaining men, that is Jabala, and has a son, and the son wants to get educated and goes to the ashram of a very eminent sage, and he asks him, Kiske putra ho? And the boy gets flustered. He comes back to his mother, and mother has the courage to tell him कि जाओ ऋषि से कहो मेरी माता ये नहीं जानती है कि मेरे पिता कौन है. She doesn't know who my father is, but tell her I am the son of Satyavati and I would like to be educated by you. मैं जाबाल हूँ उनका, सत्यकाम हूँ जाबाला का पुत्र. और ऋषि उसको स्वीकार कर लेते हैं, एजुकेट करते हैं. He founded a very good educational institute when he got educated and is well recognized. So women had the opportunity to educate themselves, to marry, to choose their occupation, to have that occupation. And so if they wish to stay single, they did so. And if they wanted to marry later, Ghosha is one example that they married also when they wanted to. So, and we have names for all the professions of women at that time. So if we look at, of course, I don't have, so I won't go into these details. Like they had Rishikas and Brahmavadinis, which is educated women. But then situation changed, and years of aggressions from foreign rulers made women vulnerable. And war makes women vulnerable. The two world wars in Europe kept women inside and ultimately forced them to come out. So empowerment was to be seen as a working woman. I don't think that's really empowerment, because we know working woman does come out and has some scope, but that only is not the guarantee of getting empowered. And therefore, I would request this webinar to look at the issue of women empowerment and issue of women's rights in cultural context also, in our culture specific environment, which the whole Asia is trying to do. And I think we must also understand that. So these changes in the brought a change in the status of women, and women's rights became important rights. And it was after the political rights, civil and political rights, then social and cultural and economic rights, and then finally cultural rights. And then they said we must recognize women's rights. That was the fourth wave of women's rights. But India recognized them at the time of independence. And I won't repeat, because I think Professor Saini had already read out what the Indian Constitution said about the position of Indian Constitution and Indian state on Indian women's rights. So in India, we do really segregate women's rights in the Constitution. Of course, there is something like positive discrimination, which tries to ensure that the state must try to bring out legislations and policies to empower women as much as possible. And wherever it is found that they're not represented well, then the state must make efforts to bring them into that arena. And one result we have seen in the Panchayati Raj institutions, where women have been given 33% reservations, they've already come up to 50% reservations, and we are still waiting for women to get into the rest of the political arena also. I'm sure that way the political arena will also improve, and the women's position will also improve with time. The women usually do not want any special privileges, but they want recognition of their powers. And therefore, it becomes very important to understand that in Indian context, what we want. I come across the old literature of India, and where, of course, we have the examples of Draupadi, Sita, and Kekai also, who help their counterparts in taking decisions, and their decisions were respected. And in taking positions, the positions were respected. I also have to share with you that in India, Matri or Sri comes before. So Matrivan Bhav, Matrivan, Pitrivan, Acharyavan, Purusho Ved. And when you talk about respect, it's again, first you have to respect your mother, then you have to respect your father, then you have to respect your teacher, and that's how you can really go towards learning. So woman comes before man everywhere in our social structure and social sentiments. But then something happened. On one hand, we say Yatra Narestu Pujyante Ramante Tatra Devata, and then violence, wife beating, harassment, etc. come. If you read newspapers, you really feel sad. If you read even today's newspaper, you'll find many stories where the women are being abused, and therefore the society has to think that from a society where we said that woman is the destiny of civilization, woman is the destiny of family, and woman is her own destiny. From that situation, we have come to a situation where you say, make laws to protect us, make laws because they are really vulnerable. And I think we have to find our own index, because Professor Saini was talking about gender index. I'm really skeptical about these indexes, because the indexes are not made by taking into our social structures and the social realities into account. The indexes are being made by different civilizations and different cultural backgrounds. So this webinar must also think about it. And Professor Vinay Kapoor will speak after me. She is a person of law. I am sure she'll be able to give you a better direction in this. I just want to, just quote part of a sentence where the wife of Indra, who's supposed to be a lord of the gods, who says that I am great because I carry the flag of the entire family, of the entire community. I am the forehead or the prestige of the family. ये संस्कृत है, इसलिए मैं थोड़ा सा उसमें भी बोल दूं तो आप बेहतर समझ पाएंगे. And allow me that. वो कहती हैं, मैं कुल कीर्ति की ध्वजा हूँ, कुल को मेरे ही कारण कीर्ति मिलती है, मैं उसकी पताका हूँ, मैंने कुल के यश का झंडा फहराया है, मैं कुटुंब का मस्तक हूँ, ऊर्धन्य स्थान पर रहकर मैं कुटुंब को सम्मानजनक तरीके से चलाऊंगी. तो कुटुंब चलाने का अधिकार भी उसका है. मैं उग्रकाली हूँ, मुझे केवल कोमल मत समझो, भावनाशील मत समझो, सहनशील मत समझो. मैं दुर्बल और भीरू नहीं हूँ और मैं अन्याय चुपचाप सहूंगी भी नहीं. मेरा आचरण संकल्पित परंतु तेजस्वी होगा. और इसलिए वो कहती है कि मैं वो सब करने में समर्थ हूँ जो पुरुष करते हैं, इसलिए मुझे ये ना समझें क्योंकि मैं जो कर रही हूँ वो इस समय अपने पूरे कुल की कीर्ति के लिए कर रही हूँ. और इस संदर्भ में जब हम भारत की महिला को समझेंगे तो हम समझ पाएंगे कि जब वो घर में रहती है तो वो इसलिए अपने कमजोर न समझे कि वो बाहर काम करने नहीं जा रही है, क्योंकि बाहर काम करने वाली हम महिलाएं जानती हैं कि हम कितना अधिक कष्ट उठाकर बाहर और अंदर का काम कर पाती हैं और उसमें बैलेंस और संतुलन भी रख पाती हैं. ये हमारा विकल्प अवश्य होना चाहिए. We must have the opportunity, we must have the alternative, we must have the scope to decide, but that should not only be the criterion of empowerment or realizing the rights of women. I'm sure when the judges, honorable judges will talk or commission chair will talk, they will give you more details about it. But I would say finally that if we really want to talk about women's rights and the gender equality, we must increase women's self-worth. They must be proud of what they are doing. A home manager or a housewife is a very bad word in fact, because it's an English word. गृहिणी हाउसवाइफ नहीं होती है, गृहिणी घर की मालकिन होती है. और इसीलिए आप तो बड़े जो लोग हैं वो जानते होंगे, गांव में बहुत ग्रामीण माहौल में भी यदि परिवार अच्छा है तो ऐसा कभी नहीं होता कि अपनी पत्नी से पूछे बिना आप कोई निर्णय ले लेते हैं. चाहे आप चुपके से जाते हैं और कहते हैं एक बार जरा मैं सलाह कर लूं, और बड़े लोग भी ये मानते हैं कि जरा एक बार अंदर सलाह भी कर लो. So that kind of understanding, balance and camaraderie is required. Then they must also have their capacity and capability to have choices. They must have the right to have choice, but the choice has to be opted for discerningly. So they must have the right to education, they must have the right to employment, they must have the right to movement. Their safety must be a concern for the entire society and the nation, because without that the nation can't be great. And their right to have control of their lives and their resources. And that usually is recognized in our culture, because that's why Stri Dhan ki baat yahan hoti hai. A woman has an inherent right over certain pieces of property which their parents have given them and which they have purchased during building the house. And then they also must have the power and right to influence the direction of social change to create more just social and economic order nationally, internationally, and globally. If we do so, we'll be able to really create a world which will be gender just but for that, we must have gender sensitization. And gender sensitization must be included in our studies, our dialogues, our culture, where we are able to take care of those areas of culture, films, beliefs, homes, where we discriminate or discern between the two sexes or three sexes. And so, in the end, I would like to say that gender equality and women's rights can be realized if we start thinking about women in terms of equity, not equality, gender equity. They are more than equal, and we must realize that. So we don't want equal rights to fight about equal rights, but we want our own share, our own worth to be recognized as it is. Gender friendly, the movement is gender friendly, the society is gender friendly, the people are gender sensitive. Parents can teach their sons and daughters to respect women as women and also their worth. And I have also been part of the gender budgeting process and gender budgeting exercises of the government of India, which also try to make employers and working places more gender friendly or friendly to women, especially because they have special works, powers, and entitlements also. And ultimately, the effort should be, Anjali has come on screen, which means my time is over. So ultimately, I would say,
Ma'am,
we
no,
must
ma'am, it's not. You can
recognize,
continue.
we must all try to do all this, exercise our rights, create an environment which is friendly to our rights, create a society which understands the worth and value and respects women, and ultimately create a gender just global order and a gender just world. The world will become sustainable only then. The world will become gender friendly only then. And therefore, I would again compliment IP University or Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha. You know, I was one of those who got Guru Gobind Singh or Sri Guru Gobind Singh. We wanted, in fact, attached because before IP University when it was being created. So I must not miss this name. And I hope you all like this name, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, which is really doing wonders. And you have a very nice leader at the moment, and the IQAC of the university, and the task force for women. I understand you have gender champions also, and you're trying to create an environment on the university which is gender friendly. My thanks and gratitude to you. Sarojji is not visible at the moment, but to her also, and to the
Here,
entire university fraternity, my gratitude and my good wishes and compliments. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
thank you, madam. Now I am
Your
visible.
great
Thank you very much,
words.
ma'am.
We are delighted to.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you,
We are really delighted to hear your valuable talk on equality and women's rights. Each and every word is full of motivation, ma'am. We really impressed the way you narrated the rights and status of women. It will definitely useful for all of us. Again, thank you, ma'am, and my sincere apologies for the old profession. So sorry, ma'am.
It's
Thank
okay.
you. Thanks
You
a
always
lot,
learn.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, moving ahead, we have our next panelist, Professor Dr. Mrs. Vinay Kapoor Mehra. Ma'am is the founder Vice Chancellor of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar National Law University, Sonipat, Haryana. Prior to this, she was the State Information Commissioner of Punjab. Professor Mehra has also served at Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, where she headed the Department of Law. Her area of research has been women in law, family law, and human rights. She has also been the member of Ministry of Child and Women Empowerment in Punjab government. Recently, in current year, ma'am has been awarded with the Great 8 Women of the Year 2020. We welcome you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Anjali ma'am.
Professor.
I suppose I am audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible. Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
So let me first of all thanks all the organizers, including the Vice Chancellor of this university, Mr. Verma, then Coordinator, Mr. A.K. Saini, other organizer team. I won't name all of them because then it will take too much time. I'm also thankful to Professor Sushma Yadav, Honorable Vice Chancellor of EPS University. I think we were all spellbound when she was speaking. And she has made my work so easy, giving you all the inputs about this topic. So the topic is very close to my heart. So that's why I had other engagement today, but I could not say no to my dear friend, Professor Kavaldeep Singh. So now I would like to thank her again because this gave me a good opportunity to listen very good speakers today. As the topic for today is gender equality. So rightly has been said by Professor Yadav that gender equality should be the neutral, gender neutral subject, but because there has been a long history that the women have been deprived of their rights due to the aggression, due to the slavery and other factors, that they were deprived of those rights which they enjoyed in this country earlier. She has made a comparison between Eastern and Western culture ideologies. How in the West, the women is given the second place in the society, in the family, and in the East, we have always given the highest position to the women. That's why we have all the goddesses of wealth, of education and STEM. Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Durga, or Parvati. So here we had a matriarchal society, it is true. And even today, in most of the remote areas, we too have matriarchal society where the mother is the head of the family. And she is the decision maker in the family. And this was the scenario throughout the country before the advent of the various cultures which invaded our country. So recently, this was in one of the case where Justice Bhagwati, that is Menka Gandhi versus Union of India, Honorable Justice Bhagwati has rightly remarked that the concept of equality may be new to the West, but it is there from the Vedic period. So from the Vedic period, there have been all the rights to both women and men. They were given right to education, so there was Upnayan ceremony. We find various verses in the Vedas which have been composed by our Rishikas. We do remember the names of Gargi, Maitreyi, Lopamudra, Bhusha, Apala. There are a number of names which are missing today from our curriculum. That's why our young generation does not know about the rich heritage of our country. Now, Madam Yadav has pointed out that in Greek even, Plato has not given equal rights to the women, whereas in India, we had given right more than men. So always she was placed first. Atri Devobha, Pitri Devobha, and then Acharya. So mother has been, the women have been placed always at the top, inside the family and outside. Inside she was considered as a Grihaswamini. So total control of the home and family affairs was in the hand. The gents used to earn, but the right to spend the money was with the lady of the house. So she had the right to choose. She has to take the decision in the home. She had a right to Istridhan, which was her exclusive property. Today we confuse with the this Istridhan with the dowry. But dowry is something else, and Istridhan is. So during the British period, the English judges could not relish the idea of Istridhan, so they mixed it with dowry. Dowry, whereas means as per various encyclopedias, the property which a woman carries along her, whether movable or immovable, and the husband has a right over that property. Whereas Istridhan means the property over which the lady has the exclusive right. She has a right to alienate, to enjoy, to possess and transfer, and the husband or other person could not interfere with that right. Now, since she was deprived of this right, her position in the family deteriorated. She became dependent upon the manfolk, and then gradually, during the Muslim arena, she was confined to home. She was deprived of the educational facilities, and then she was totally became dependent on the other members of the family. Now, coming to the present scenario, at the international level, the efforts have been made. Various conventions, various, you can say, treaties were made where the issue was taken, because for a long time, women were not even considered as a human beings, and she was not given the right, human rights equal with the men. The United Nations Human Rights Charter do mention that all are equal. But still, there were all the signatories to those conventions had the discriminatory laws in their own countries. So this was CEDA, which for the first time, and we can say this was a Magna Carta for most of the women, where they were recognized as equal human beings. And this was the impact of CEDA, that new laws were framed, not only in India, but at the world level in various countries too. In order to remove the discrimination which has creeped into the society, we made the laws which were pro-women. And I have just pointed out that in the Constitution, we have right to equality on one side, and we have a provision under Article 15(3) to make the certain laws for the protection of women, and this is called protective discrimination. These laws have been made like Dowry Prohibition Act, Equal Remuneration Act, this Domestic Violence, Protection from Domestic Violence Act, then Indecent Representation Act, Sexual Harassment at Workplace. So these all acts are for women, and they are justified under the provisions of the Constitution. Not only the pro-women laws were made by the government, by the legislature, but the mindset of the judiciary also changed after India signed CEDA. the Convention on Elimination of All Type of Discrimination Against Women. That is the full title of CEDAW. Now, earlier, in many of the cases, if we review the cases, the judiciary has justified the discrimination against women. They were not allowed to join army. They were not allowed to join various professions, and the reasonable justification which was given by the institutions or by the government was that due to the security reasons, we are not giving this right to the women. So they were deprived, and judiciary also endorsed those provisions of the government. This was for in Air India's case, Nagesh Mishra versus Union of India. We find that judiciary has given a U-turn. They struck down those provisions where the married woman was deprived of the joining as an air hostess. Then we have, after that, a series of case laws where the judiciary has struck down all the discriminatory provisions. Whether it is pertaining to the admission in the institution or to the job security or the promotion in the job. So now we have a proactive judiciary, and this judiciary at various levels have been protecting the women's rights. Now we know that India has not only signed CEDAW, it has also signed Mexican Plan of Action long before the CEDAW in 1975. Then Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action 1995. Then Outcome Document adopted by UNGA session on gender equality and development. This is the result of all these conventions at the international level that special initiatives were taken for the women. This constitution of National Commission for Women. We will be having one of the panelists from the commission, and she will also let us know that since 1992, from its constitution, this National Commission have been working for the upliftment of the women, for the rights of the women. They have been pointed out the loopholes in the law, why those laws which have been made for the women but they are not properly implemented, so they are not getting their equal right, equal place. Then government has also a national plan of action for the girl child for the 10 years 1991 to 2000. The national policy for the in 2001, and a separate ministry for the women and child known as Ministry of Women and Child Development in 2006. UGC is also taking the initiatives. They are promoting the grants are given to the women. A separate grants are given for the research and the post-doctoral fellowship. But the things remain, why all these things are still not reflected in the family and in the society? Because even today, there is discrimination in the law itself. And if there is discrimination in the law, it will be reflected in the society. India is the only country throughout the world which have various personal laws for various religious communities. Hindus have their own laws, Muslims their own, Christian, Parsis, Jew. All these communities, they have their own personal laws, and in all these personal laws, there is discrimination, whether we take the right to inheritance, right to adoption, right to guardianship, right to divorce and marriage. Means all these personal laws, they are discriminatory, and we know law regulate the society and our behavior. So if there is discrimination in the law, it will be reflected in the society as well as in our behavior. For example, I will give one or two examples only, that in our ancient culture, mother used to be the first guardian. But today, since we have common laws, we have taken all the common law today and we have enacted in form of the acts. So today, father is the first guardian. So mother, who takes all the pains for the child, for the upbringing, for doing everything for the child, she has no right till father is there and he is taking care of the child. She cannot take any decision. So when she cannot take the decision for the child, she has no say about the child. So then, what are his power in them? Her powers in the family? And this is in all the personal laws. Okay? Let's talk about the other personal laws. Even in Hindu law, there is some discrimination, but mother comes after father. But taking the example of Muslim law, if father is not there, mother will not be substituted. She is nowhere in the picture as a guardian of the child. After father, any of the paternal relation will be the guardian of the child, maybe a boy or a girl. So grandfather, then uncle, and if there is no one in the paternal side, then maternal male relation will be the guardian. So mother is totally nowhere. She is only given the right to custody of the child. That means she is to take care of the child, but she cannot take any decision about the child. She is not the guardian of the person of the child and not even guardian of the property of the child. And this is true with the Christian law and other personal laws. Similarly, adoption is only allowed among the Hindus. So there is no such right, parallel right in other personal laws. So these personal laws we find sex-based discrimination as well as religion-based discrimination. Under Hindu or Christian or Parsi or Jew, both husband and wife, they are entitled to have a divorce through the court. Whereas under Muslim law, if the wife wants divorce, she has to go to the court, but husband can pronounce talaq. Only triple talaq has been removed, but still the right to pronounce talaq outside the court is there under the Muslim personal law. So is this not violative of the right to equality of the woman? So until we remove discrimination from the laws, we cannot imagine of equality in the society. And with due respect to our Honorable Supreme Court, whenever the issue of these discriminatory provision in the personal laws is taken to the Supreme Court, they simply says, we cannot decide on these issues. Better you go to the legislature. However, some of our high courts have shown the courage and they have declared these discriminatory provisions as ultra vires of the Constitution. For example, the case of the Kerala High Court, where they declared Section 9 of Indian Divorce Code as ultra vires, and the result was that the whole Indian Divorce Act has to be replaced. Then Andhra High Court has struck down Section 9 of the Hindu Marriage Act. And Allahabad High Court has long back struck down the concept of triple talaq. So some of the high courts, they do come with the decision that the discrimination in the law should be removed, there should be amendment. But neither the legislature nor our Honorable Supreme Court has taken these issues. Now, why there need to be equality? We know that women is the backbone of the society, of the family. If she is not happy, there will not be happiness and prosperity in the family and society composed of various families. So if we want that there should be prosperity in the society, there is a just and equitable society, we will have to nourish the equality. We don't want that there should be a pro-women laws. We want there should be an equal justice. I'm also not favor of those provisions which give too much rights in the hands of women and they just misuse it. They use those provisions not as a defense but as a weapon, and they violate the rights of their counterparts or their colleagues. Take the example of sexual harassment at workplace, it is being misused. Dowry Act is also being misused, and some of the provision of domestic violence is also misused. The need is that more and more law we will be making, but the result is same. So what is required is we will have to make certain changes in our curriculum too. We have to educate both boy and girl right from the beginning that all human beings
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am, in between. Actually, Swarnlata ji has to go proceed for some important meeting in High Court. So thank you very much. And again, I will. Yeah, Anjali ji.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. We're really sorry because of the short of time.
So enchanting.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot for sharing the journey of discrimination for women in our society and how our constitution has been protecting women through implementing the various laws. All these laws are very useful for us. And thanks to you, ma'am, for sharing the UGC initiatives which are taken for the women. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would like to introduce our next panelist, Ms. Swaran Kanta Sharma. Presently, Ms. Sharma is District and Session Judge in North District, Rohini. An alumna of Daulat Ram College, she graduated in English Literature and also holds a Certificate of Merit issued by National Service Scheme, the University of Delhi. Ms. Sharma has completed her LLB in the year of 1991 and became a magistrate at very young age of 24 and session judge the day she turned 35. We welcome you, ma'am. And ma'am is also fellow of Commonwealth Judicial Education Institute, Canada. She has authored many books like Don't Break After Breakup, Old Age, Beyond Bagban, Tumhari Sakhi, Love Full Circle. All these books addresses the social issues prevailing in our society. We welcome you, ma'am. Over to you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me. I'm very happy to be a part of it. सबसे पहले तो I want to say this that जब मैं जो जिस तरीके से बात करूंगी मैंने सभी लर्नर स्पीकर्स को सुना और मैंने उनसे बहुत कुछ सीखा सीखा इसलिए भी कि जैसे मैं कोर्ट में बैठती हूँ तो मुझे जो कुछ भी मैंने आज सुना वो सब मुझे आई एम वेरी श्योर कि मुझे वो काम आए लेकिन मैं इस सब्जेक्ट पर जो बोलना चाहती हूँ वो बिल्कुल एक अलग पर्सपेक्टिव से बोलना जितने भी वुमेन के लिए लॉ है क्योंकि यहाँ सब लोग बहुत ही लर्नड है और सब लोग लॉ के बारे में जानते हैं तो वो लॉज के बारे में तो जानते हैं लेकिन जब इक्वालिटी की बात होती है तो इक्वालिटी का मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव आफ्टर बीइंग इन सर्विस फॉर 30 years I have been a judge for 30 years is slightly different when I talk as a judge, when I talk about equality, or I want people to talk about equality, I don't want them to think of women alone. I don't want them to think of women alone. I want them to think of equality in terms of all the genders. For me, when I speak of gender equality, अधिकतर जब भी लोग जेंडर इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं तो वो जेंडर इक्वालिटी में उनको एक ही समझ में आती है बात कि हम औरतों के बारे में बात करना चाहते हैं, औरतों के राइट्स के बारे में बात करना चाहते हैं, औरतें बहुत अप्रेस्ड हैं, औरतों के पास बहुत सारी चीजें नहीं है, औरतों के लिए हमें ये करना चाहिए, औरतों की उसकी जर्नी क्या है। फॉर मी, मैं उस तरीके से बात मैं नहीं करना चाह रही हूँ। आई वांट टू टॉक अबाउट इट कि मैंने जब इस जुडिशरी को ज्वाइन किया आज से 30 साल पहले, और जो वो जर्नी मेरी 30 साल की इस जुडिशरी में रही, उस जुडिशल जर्नी के दौरान भी मैंने बहुत सारी चीजें देखी, किस तरीके से लॉज चेंज हुए, किस तरीके से लोगों के नजरिए चेंज हुआ, किस तरीके से लोग जो पहले 30 साल पहले जो लोग जिस तरीके से सोचा करते थे और अब जो सोचा करते हैं और अब जो सोच की जरूरत है, वो सारी चीजों के बारे में मैं आपसे बहुत ही शॉर्ट में बात करूंगी। आई विल स्पीक टू यू इन वेरी वेरी शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन। सबसे पहले नंबर 1, फर्स्ट थिंग फर्स्ट, जेंडर इक्वालिटी फॉर मी डजंट मीन equality in terms of women's right. For me, equality, gender equality means rights of equality to all three genders, everybody. To me, equality or gender equality means कि जितने भी human beings इस पृथ्वी पर हैं, everybody should have equal right, और हर gender और हर human being दूसरे human being को equal treat करे, इक्वल ट्रीट करे या ना करे तो रिस्पेक्ट से ट्रीट करे। जब हम जेंडर इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं तो आई डू नॉट नो, बहुत सारे लोग शायद बहुत सारे ग्रुप्स, बहुत सारे लोगों की सोच शायद ये है कि शायद women want to have power over men. I'm sorry, no, we are not talking about that. Women don't and should not need power over men. Women don't need empowerment. Women are empowered. Women are very very powerful. Women have everything. It's only that we are looking at respect for what we are. See, somebody said that would I want to be born as a woman or a man in my next birth? And my answer was, I am not ashamed to be a woman. I don't want to be a man. I'm happy the way I am. And I would want to be born again a woman if there is a choice. जब मैंने इस कोर्ट को ज्वाइन किया तो 30 सालों में मुझे कम से कम 4 बार एक महिला कोर्ट को प्रिजाइड करने का मौका मिला। महिला कोर्ट क्या होती है? महिला कोर्ट वो होती है जिसमें केवल महिलाओं से offenses related to women are tried by those courts. So my first posting as a Mahila Court judge was in the year 1994. Thereafter, my second posting was in the year 1998. And then I think it was when I was promoted in the year 2003, I had the occasion to be the only judge in entire Delhi who was dealing with sexual offences cases against women. क्योंकि उस वक्त जो law में अभी जितने भी all the changes which have come in law, at that time there were no such changes in the law. और उस वक्त सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ऑर्डर से पूरे दिल्ली में सिर्फ एक ही कोर्ट हुआ करती थी जो रेप के केसेस को, पूरे दिल्ली के रेप के केसेस को, और जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट अगर कोई बाहर के स्टेट से कुछ भी अगर यहाँ पर ट्रांसफर कर देते थे तो ट्राई करते थे। तो जो मेरी जर्नी शुरू हुई 1994 में, आई जॉइंड द सर्विस इन 1992, तो 92 में भी कई केसेस मेरे पास आते थे, मगर 94 में जब मैंने स्पेशल कोर्ट्स को डील करना शुरू किया तो मुझे उस वक्त ही मालूम हुआ दैट women are ill-treated. Women had power. Women had laws. Women had rights under the constitution even at that time. But they were nothing. Nothing was happening with those laws. I think I have attended many other programs where people have spoken about the laws. कि हमारे पास इतने सारे laws हैं, हमारे ये वाले laws भी हैं, हमारे वो वाले laws भी हैं। अब तो नए laws कितने सारे आ गए, domestic violence का आ गया, sexual harassment का आ गया। तो कभी कभी ये क्वेश्चन भी होता है कि क्या इतने सारे लॉज आने के बाद कुछ जो हमारी सोसाइटी है, क्या उन्होंने मेन और वुमेन के बीच में एक खाई को ला दिया? क्या men more apprehensive of women? Are we? And I have also attended webinars and seminars where we have spoken about women rights and people have asked, is it still relevant? आप women right के बारे में बात क्यों कर रहे हो? आप equality के बारे में बात क्यों कर रहे हो? आपको सब कुछ मिल चुका है, आपको हर वो right है जो कि दूसरे gender को right है, तो फिर आप आज इसकी relevance क्या है? IP University इसको करवाई क्यों रही है? Why IP University is still talking about gender equality? People are saying there is no need for these kind of discussions anymore because women have been given rights not at par with men. Now people are saying that they have been given rights and special laws which are more than men, which are not there for men, and which are being used against the men. In this context, when we talk about gender equality, I think we will be able to talk about a balanced, we will be able to reach a balanced decision by the end of this program. Let me share an incident with you. When people ask me as to why I am talking about gender equality, why IP University is talking about gender equality, why even everybody, even now, there are many women organizations which are talking about it, why they are talking about it. It was in the year 1990, in the year 2003. In the year 2003, I was dealing with the case of, number one, I was dealing with the case of rape with it was an 11-month-old child. 11-month-old child. The 11-month-old child had been brutally assaulted by one of the neighbors of the child. And how was that done? That was done because the mother of the child was working as a house help. The father of the child was a laborer, and both of them had to leave home to look after the child. To look after the home. So therefore, they had thought that their neighbor, who was about 25 years of age, they can leave the child with him at least for 15-20 minutes, and nobody really thinks that an 11-month-old child will be brutally sexually assaulted. But the child was brutally and sexually assaulted. At that time, we did not have such laws as we have now. I was put to thinking at that time that this child, who was only 11 months of age, and the medical report which was placed before me stated that probably the child will never be normal again in terms of physical assault that the child had undergone. What the mother has undergone because of the child, that's a separate story. I will connect it to the topic in question. Then there was a case of sexual assault where later on the victim did not support the prosecution, and the reason behind it was that she was to get married. Case number 3, sexual assault. A woman had leveled allegations of gang rape against certain men, and then certain men, those men, when their evidence was to be recorded, they had approached me in the court itself the day they were produced from jail, and they told me certain things as to how they had been framed and how money was being demanded from them. I think this will not be liked by many that I am discussing this, but then I think if I am balanced, if I am a judge, then I have to talk about everybody, and if I have to talk about justice, I must talk about this too. So in the court itself, some proceedings were held, and whatever they said, some money was recovered, and I made a case against that lady and sent it for trial, and she was later on, probably she was convicted. So when we are talking about laws, judiciary being slacked at times, we need to understand this also, that these laws at times are being misused, and judiciary only comes to the forefront to even save people from this misuse of laws. Question number 2. When people say that why do I need to talk about this even now? I need to talk about it even now because I want to talk to women about it. I don't want to talk to men about it. No. I want to talk to women about it. We have given laws to you. Parliament has made laws for you. But if you honestly look inside, and if I honestly look into my own court record and cases, are women not working against women? What are dowry related deaths? What are dowry related harassment cases? Who's harassing them? Is it that men alone are harassing? Is it that domestic violence cases are only because men is the person who is the offender? No, it is not. Are there not cases of rape where women have helped the men to rape people? Are there not cases where women have not stood by women even if when it comes to the court to give evidence? So I want to tell us through this program that it is not women who need to have control over men. It is not that women need to have power over men. It is that women need to have power over themselves if they want to be equal, treated equal. They are equal. They are equal. They have everything. And they've shown it to the world that they have. But there's no point talking about it, that I can do this, I can do this. Yes, I can. I could have. I always have. और those who will care, अभी जब मेरे previous जितने भी मेरे speakers थे जिनको मैंने सुना, I'm so happy कि मुझे इतनी सारी चीजें मालूम हुई जो बहुत सारे लोगों को मालूम ही नहीं है कि जो हमारा पिछला इतिहास था, whatever is our history, अगर हम अपनी हिस्ट्री को उठाते हैं तो हमें जेंडर इक्वालिटी की बात करने की जरूरत नहीं है. जो हुआ सो हुआ. वी हैव कम अ लॉन्ग वे. और मैं आज के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जब मैं बात करना चाहती हूँ तो आज के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी मुझे इस लॉ की जरूरत इसलिए पड़ गई है क्योंकि जिस वक्त 2003 में, जिस वक्त 1994 में मैंने महिला कोर्ट्स को संभाला, उस वक्त ये लॉज नहीं थे. ये लॉज बने क्यों? Why did we need to have laws? We needed to have laws because there were certain things which were happening. And those things were not happening because women were weak. These were not happening because women laws did not exist. These things were happening because laws did not have clause. These things were happening because women did not have power, women did not have the enlightenment, and women did not feel empowered enough to come to the court and to ask you for justice. Is justice alone when you are able to lodge an FIR? No, it is not. बहुत सारे लोग खासतौर पे एक पर्टिकुलर जेंडर इस बात से बहुत ही खुश होता है कि औरतों के पास तो उतने सारे लॉज हो गए जो हमारे खिलाफ इस्तेमाल कर रही हैं, वो कभी भी जाती हैं, अब तो FIR को लॉन्च करना ही बिल्कुल मैंडेटरी हो गया. तो क्या उससे विमेन को एम्पावरमेंट आ गई? नो. द जर्नी स्टार्ट्स नॉट फ्रॉम द FIR. द जर्नी स्टार्ट्स जिस वक्त वो सोचती है कि क्या मैं FIR करूं. I am not talking about women who are not educated. I'm not talking about women who are less educated. I'm not talking about women who are poor. I'm talking about women who are empowered. I'm talking about women who are educated. I'm talking about women who have the power to approach the authorities and to set the law in motion. जो प्रॉब्लम है ना कि आप एम्पावर्ड खुद को महसूस नहीं करते, वो इस बात की नहीं है कि आपकी FIR लॉन्च होगी या नहीं होगी. इस बात पर है कि आप इस बात को डिसाइड करने के लिए कि क्या मैं FIR करूं, और अगर मैं करूं तो फिर उसके बाद मैं क्या करूं, उसकी पावर हमारे पास अभी भी कम. किसी तरीके से अगर मान लीजिए लॉ इज सेट इनटू मोशन and when the case comes to you for evidence, people don't support their own cases. It's not that in every case, like people say, people have not taken money to turn hostile. No. There are certain other things which are prevalent in this society even now, even today, because of which आप FIR तो लॉन्च कर सकते हैं मगर आप कोर्ट में आके अपना बयान नहीं दे पाते. फिर ऐसे लॉ का क्या करूं? मेरे पास एक पूरी फाइल है, मेरे पास एक पूरी एविडेंस है, मेरे पास एक पूरी चिट्ठी है, मेरे पास एक पूरा का पूरा प्लान है, मेरे पास FSL की रिपोर्ट, मगर जब मैं उसको ट्राई करने के लिए बैठती हूँ तब तक उस औरत की जिंदगी में इतनी सारी चीजें और हो चुकी होती और वो अपने भविष्य के लिए इतनी चिंतित हो चुकी होती है कि उस लॉ का ना उसको कोई फायदा होता है और ना मैं उससे कोई मदद कर सकती। और क्या मैं उसकी मदद, मैं उसके खिलाफ मैं कुछ कहना शुरू करूं तो कैसे करूं? जब वो मुझे आके ये बताएं that I have been engaged, I have been married, I can't come to your court to give evidence because my family is going to ask me where I am going. तो लॉ की प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आपके पास विमेन रिलेटेड लॉज की कमी नहीं है, आपके पास विमेन रिलेटेड किसी मिशनरी की आपके पास कमी नहीं है. There are commissions, there are people who are helping women. The only thing which is lacking in this society for gender equality is that my perspective, the perspective of women also towards women has not changed. Progress, if any, is very slow. जब आप खुद एक औरत को स्टिग्मेटाइज करते हो तो आप और किसी जेंडर से आप क्यों एक्सपेक्ट करते हो that they are going to support you? Why are you expecting support from men जिसको आप समझते हो कि वो आपके दुश्मन है, जब आप खुद ही अपनी दुश्मन? So if women have to be empowered, if women want to be treated where they are not treated equally in society despite laws being in place, they have to change themselves. And how do they change themselves when I say this? So who raises men? Mother, father. I don't say mother. Both of them. Their grandparents. Everybody. So when they are raising them, जब आप उस वक्त उनके माइंड में औरत होते हुए भी इस बात को नहीं बिठा सकते that they have to treat their own sister, their own colleague, their own friend equally, then you are, being a woman, you are doing a great injustice to the women. So what I need to tell to the society is this, that this grooming cannot start in the school. You are the best school. You are the best teacher. And you have to look after, you have to do this. You have to tell your sons, when you are raising them, that you have to treat people, you are equal. There's no question of treating equally. Treating equally तो तब होना चाहिए ना जब हमारे अंदर कोई डिफरेंस ही हो. उन्हें ये बताइए कि हमारे पास डिफरेंस ही नहीं है, ये डिफरेंस है ही नहीं. इस डिफरेंस को हम कैसे क्रिएट करते हैं? इस डिफरेंस को हम तब क्रिएट करते हैं जब हम घर के किचन के काम के लिए या किसी और के लिए हम सिर्फ अपने बेटियों को आवाज देते हैं, अपने बेटों को आवाज नहीं देते. इसको रेस करने में प्रॉब्लम है. हमें इस बात की प्रॉब्लम है कि औरतें खुद ही अपनी जिम्मेवारी को एक पर्टिकुलर लेवल पर अपनी भी निभाने में कमजोर. लॉस की कमी फिलहाल मुझे नहीं लग रही कि देयर इज एनीथिंग. लेट मी शेयर एन एग्जांपल विद यू. हाउ एम्पावर्ड women are seen in the society. They look down upon. And irrespective of the fact what is their status in society, where they are working, whether they are educated, whatever. Let us come to one example. I am a judge, and I've been a judge for very, very long time. It was only last year when I have completed almost 30 years of my service that I received a letter from a lawyer. And he sent a registered letter to me. He had sent a registered letter to me. He had written his name. He was being very honest. And he had written everything that, he had not he had not tried to hide his identity, and he wrote very bad things about it. He wrote that I had written a book, Don't Break After Breakup. That book is for women who are divorced, who are living single, or who have decided not to get married, and women in case they are ill-treated or they are divorced, how they should still remain empowered and not lose hope in the difficult times, and feel that whatever they are the best. Means just because they are divorced, that doesn't devalue them, that doesn't make them lesser than anybody. So this gentleman, lawyer, was offended after reading that book. I have written nothing. Like I said, that I don't believe in male bashing. For me, being feminist or talking about equal right doesn't mean men bashing. कि अगर मुझे ये दिखाना है कि मैं अच्छी हूँ, तो मुझे ये नहीं कहना है कि आदमी बुरे हैं, क्योंकि अगर आदमी बुरे हैं तो औरतें भी बुरी हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि सारे आदमी बुरे हैं और सारी औरतें ही अच्छी हैं, ऐसा नहीं होता. बिकॉज हर एक के अंदर कोई ना कोई कमी होती है, और ऐसे बहुत सारे केसेस होते हैं जिसके अंदर औरतें भी तो मुलजिम होती हैं. मैं औरतों ने भी तो गलत काम किए हुए होते हैं. औरतें भी तो ऐसी होती है जिन्होंने आदमियों को बहुत तंग कर रखा है, और दे कम हियर and they file their cases and which are found to be correct. So what happened after I read that letter? He had written in that letter that, you know, this book is like this book is like this book is like this, and I should not have written this book, and what I think of myself, and this and that. So because this letter was received in my office, I did not mind it at all, and I did not even, and you know, this lawyer kept on appearing before me in all the court matters, and I never ever asked him about this, that, you know, why you wrote a letter to me. I did not even acknowledge this, that, you know, why he wrote this letter, why whatever happened. I did not even try and acknowledge the letter. I did not even try and acknowledge the letter. So reading this letter made me believe that it's not that you have done something wrong for which you have to be looked down upon. It is not that a percentage of men does not want to treat women as equals. It is at times that even if you want to discuss this topic, you become a target. Not that it really bothers me. No, it doesn't bother me. I think I'm doing good work. Because if they are getting offended with this, then I am helping women. I'm trying to help women also who are in difficult situations. I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it at all. So what I want to now bring your kind attention to this is that the purpose of discussing this thing was that let us not think that only you know, crimes happen, and only then, you know, such things go wrong and you have to come to the court. It is not that. It is rather, let me put it like this. It is women are made to believe कि जो उनके साथ अगर कोई अन्याय, कोई इनजस्टिस या कोई क्राइम हो रहा है, तो इस बात को ग्लोरीफाई करना चाहते हैं कि चलो ये तो हो रहा है, बिकॉज ये होता रहा है. आप जो उसके खिलाफ आवाज उठाते हैं, उस चीज से वो आपको नीचा दिखाना चाहते हैं. They want to somehow show this to you कि जो आपके साथ हुआ है वो उतना बुरा नहीं है, मगर आप जो उस बारे में बात कर रहे हो वो बहुत बुरा है. तो आपकी जेंडर इक्वालिटी को परेशानी कहाँ से आती है? आपकी जेंडर इक्वालिटी को परेशानी वहां से आती है जहां पर क्राइम को बुरा नहीं माना जाता, और अगर क्राइम को बुरा माना भी जाता है तो लॉ विल टेक इट्स ओन कोर्स, मगर दे डू नॉट वांट women to talk about it, and women who talk about these things and whatever have happened to them are considered to be they are called in I think a very bad as if it is a bad term, they are called feminist. और उनकी बात करने को बुरा माना जाता है. उस क्राइम को जो उनके साथ हो रहा है वो उतना बुरा नहीं है, लेकिन क्योंकि वो जो उनके साथ हो रहा है उसके बारे में बात करती है तो उसको बुरा माना जाता है. तो आपकी जेंडर इक्वालिटी और आपकी जो लॉज आपको मिले हैं, what will they do till you change that outlook? And how will you change that outlook when you tell yourself that let people say what they're saying? How does it matter? If I want justice, I want justice. If I want to talk about something wrong, I have to talk about these wrong things. And how do we do that? You have to raise women. You have to raise women telling them that it's fine to have leadership qualities. You have to tell women when you are raising them, it is fine to choose a career. It is fine to raise your voice against injustice. You have to raise women where you have to tell them that it is always not right to be polite to people. If you have to be impolite, you need to be impolite in certain situations. Just because you want to be called a good woman, you can't be brushed aside all the time. You can't only try to show that you are very polite, you are very nice, you are very docile. No, you don't have to do that. And you have to tell your men, you have to tell your children, you have to tell your sons that it's all right if women behave this way because they are supposed to. If a woman, how many of you must have heard that, a woman has beaten her husband? How many of us? मुझे 30 साल में शायद ऐसे केसेस शायद 10 से कम मिले केसेस. 30 सालों में मेरे पास 10 से कम केसेस मिले मुझे ऐसे, और हजारों केसेस ऐसे मिले जहां पर डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस बहुत प्रेवलेंट है. और डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस ये ना समझिए कि कोई बहुत ही नीचे के तबकों में या फाइनेंशियली जो वीक लोग होते हैं उन लोगों में. नो, डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस इज प्रेवलेंट वेयर आल्सो, वेयर यू आर वेरी पावरफुल, where you're very educated and you are a high official. And when you're a high official, you know what is your problem? Your problem is that then you cannot talk about it, that you are being bashed every day at home and you are a victim of domestic violence because of then again certain things which are in the society. So you have to raise women and you have to tell women that these laws which are there will help you only if you have power over yourself, and you tell other women that you should, each woman should help other women. Don't expect it from men. Please don't. Let's have a sisterhood. Let's all women give some kind of support to other women when they are in distress. आपकी आधी प्रॉब्लम्स तो उससे खत्म हो जाएगी. You will not need to go to law every time. There's one more thing that I wanted to say. If my time is up, please tell me. I will stop it there. Am I to stop? Am I to stop?
No, you can take, ma'am. You can take your time. 5 minutes more. Okay.
Thank you.
It's your wish.
So, thank you. So what I want to now tell you is this, that when women come to court, they need support. When women come to court, they don't need support of men alone. They need your own support also, their own family, their own female friends, and those females who are in the society. So if you really want equality in practical terms, ये तो हम बातें करते रहते हैं कि इतने सारे लॉज हैं, इतने सारे एक्ट हैं, इतने सारे जज ने ये बोल दिया, ये जजमेंट हो गई है, ये वहां पे कोर्ट हो गई है, हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने पता नहीं क्या क्या बोल दिया है, लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स. मगर वो कब होंगी जब आप उसको करने की हिम्मत करोगे। और आप उसको करने की हिम्मत कब करोगे? जब आप केवल सेमिनार में बात नहीं करोगे, जब आप वाकई जो औरतें जब डिस्ट्रेस में हैं तो उनके साथ खड़े होने में शर्म महसूस नहीं करोगे। जब आप किसी भी विमेन इन डिस्ट्रेस के साथ उसको सपोर्ट करने में आप बिल्कुल भी आप पीछे नहीं हटोगे। नाउ टू कंक्लूड, इन सब सेमिनार्स का फायदा तभी होगा जब हम में से जितने लोग इस सेमिनार का हिस्सा हैं, हम में से जितने लोग भी इसमें पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, अगर हम केवल लॉज की जो हमारे पास बुक्स में है उनकी बात ना करके थोड़ा प्रैक्टिकल होके उन लोगों को चेंज करने की कोशिश करें जो लोग आज भी लॉज को बुरा कहते हैं। तो लॉज क्यों बने हैं? लॉज इसलिए बने हैं क्योंकि प्रॉब्लम थी। राइट बर्निंग का 304 भी पहले जब मैंने ज्वाइन द सर्विस तब तो नहीं था। व्हेन डिड इट कम इनटू फोर्स? क्योंकि आप औरतों को जला रहे थे। 376 में चेंजेस क्यों हुए? क्योंकि आप औरतों को रेप कर रहे थे। 354 में क्यों चेंज हुआ? क्योंकि आप औरतों के पीछे भाग रहे थे। सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट एक्ट क्यों आया? क्योंकि आपने मुझे आजादी देती थी कि मैं जाऊं और मैं काम करूं, मगर आप वहां पर मुझे इतना स्ट्रेस, आप मुझे इतना तंग कर रहे थे कि मैं काम ही ना कर पाऊं। तो जो मुझे इक्वालिटी मिली थी उसमें मीनिंग जीरो था। सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट एक्ट इसीलिए आया था। बहुत सारे जो बाद में इसीलिए आए थे। तो एवरीबडी हैज टू थिंक अबाउट दैट आल्सो कि जब हम विमेन इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं और ये कहते हैं कि आज ये इररिलेवेंट हो गई है चीज, तो हम इस बात की बात करें कि ये लॉज फोर्स में तभी आए थे क्योंकि आपने कुछ ऐसा किया कि ये लॉज बनाने की जरूरत पड़ गई। लॉज थे नहीं। आप इन चीजों को खत्म कर दें, इस सोसाइटी में से ये खत्म हो जाए, ये लॉज इररिलेवेंट हो जाएंगे, इन लॉज को हम हटा देंगे। और कभी जब ये कहा जाता है कि इन लॉज का मिसयूज होता है, तो लॉज का मिसयूज क्या खाली जो वुमेन रिलेटेड लॉज है खाली उन्हीं का मिसयूज होता है क्या? बाकी लॉज उनका मिसयूज नहीं होता? उनका लॉज का भी मिसयूज होता है। तो क्या शुड वी स्टॉप मेकिंग लॉज? नो, वी डोंट स्टॉप मेकिंग लॉज. What we do is we start enlightening people not to misuse the laws. And women should also understand this, that they should not misuse the laws, because then they are doing a great disservice to those women जिनको वाकई इन laws की जरूरत है. So laws को हम बंद नहीं कर सकते, मगर हम उन्हें एक और अच्छे तरीके से हम उनको इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं. और जहां तक एक चीज और जो मैं इस सेमिनार में कहना चाहती हूँ, जो मैं चाहती हूँ कि आगे जाए, वो ये कि फेमिनिस्ट की एक जो गलत परिभाषा हमारे लोगों ने दे दी है कि जैसे ही हम जेंडर इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं तो वो समझते हैं कि मेल बैशिंग औरतें आ गई हैं. तो नो, फेमिनिस्ट डजंट मीन अ वुमन हु इज अब्यूजिंग मेन. फेमिनिस्ट मीन्स अ वुमन हु वांट्स टू बी ट्रीटेड विद रिस्पेक्ट, who doesn't want to be treated unequally, and she wants all the dignity that she deserves. I was born in a family where I think my father is the biggest feminist. I know friends, male friends, who are biggest feminists. I know teachers, male judges, who are the biggest feminists because they have supported women. They have supported men also. As far as judges are concerned, judges का कभी कोई gender नहीं होता. Judges don't have any gender. I joined this service. मेरे सामने जब एक कांस्टेबल आती थी, एक लेडी कांस्टेबल, तो अपनी एविडेंस रिकॉर्ड करने के टाइम वो लिखवाती थी वुमेन हेड कांस्टेबल और विमेन सब इंस्पेक्टर और विमेन इंस्पेक्टर. I was so offended, and I told them, I was young at that time, but I told them, why? You are whatever you are, you don't have to write you are a woman. When a man is coming to depose in the witness box, is he writing this? Is he saying this? Man head constable? Are they saying, what is this lady doctor thing? Doctors are doctors. And I am not saying I am a lady judge. I am a judge. And when women come to us, I think judges don't have genders. I don't have a gender. I don't think that I am a woman when I sit on that chair. I am a judge. My judgment does not have a gender. My order doesn't have a gender. My anything that I say to the in my judgments doesn't have a gender, because I am a judge, and a judge is one, and law is that who is equal to all. Law कि आंखों में पट्टी बंधी रहती है मगर उसके कान खुले रहते हैं। आंखों में पट्टी बंधने का मतलब ये नहीं होता कि हम डिफरेंशिएट करें। अगर मेरे पास 302 में अगर कोई औरत किसी का मर्डर करके आती है तो डू वी गिव हर लेसर सेंटेंस? अगर कोई औरत किसी और ऑफेंस को करती है, इन सीबीआई देयर आर विमेन ऑफेंडर्स, इन अदर केसेस देयर आर विमेन ऑफेंडर्स, तो क्या हम उन्हें कम सजा दे रहे हैं? क्या हम उनके साथ ज्यादा लीनियंट है? नो, इट इज नॉट लाइक दैट। सो टू कंक्लूड, हमारे पास लॉज हैं, हमारे पास जेंडर न्यूट्रल लॉज भी हैं, हमारे पास इक्वालिटी के लिए ये लॉज इसलिए हैं, इक्वालिटी के लिए लॉज नहीं है, ये उस चीज के लिए लॉज हैं कि आप कुछ अत्याचार एक पर्टिकुलर जेंडर पर कर रहे थे, उसको रोकना था, और क्योंकि वो आप कर रहे थे तो आपको रोकना था, तो आपको ये बुरा लग गया कि ये लॉज मेरे लिए बन गए। ये लॉ मेरे लिए नहीं बने थे, ये लॉ आपको रोकने के लिए बने थे, ये लॉ मुझे सेव करने के लिए। ये लॉ मेरे वन फाइन मॉर्निंग आई डिड नॉट गेट अप एंड से मेरे लिए एक लॉ बना दो, तो एक लॉ बन गया। नो, इट डिड नॉट हैपन। सो इफ वी वांट a gender neutral society, if we want actual equality, then we need to raise people, and we need to raise men the way we should, and we need to raise our girls the way we should. We should give them the voice that they should be able to be heard, and you should give those ears to your sons that they should hear, that they should appreciate them. Only then I think we will be able to be whatever जो भी हम करना चाहते हैं हम वो कर पाए. Thank you very much once again to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be part of it, and I hope I was able to contribute something. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing of and right to equality to all the genders. Thanks for sharing your personal experience as a judge in Mahila Court. You have rightly said that there is a dire need to discuss about gender equality and more on respecting humanity at each and every forum. And you rightly said, ma'am, that law is one for all. We should respect law. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for sharing your valuable thoughts and sparing your valuable time with us. Thank you, ma'am. Now, in this panel discussion on the theme Gender Equality and Women's Rights, I would like to request Professor Udita Taneja, Chairperson, Women Task Force, to please share the initiatives and planned activities of Women Task Force of our university. Professor Udita Taneja obtained her BTech degree from the IIT Delhi, MS and PhD from Tulane University, USA, and postdoctoral fellowship at Mayo Clinic, USA. On her return to India, she obtained an MBA degree from IIT Delhi and secured the first merit position. Professor Taneja has teaching, research, and industry experience of 36 years, both in India and USA. Her corporate experience in India includes having worked in the IT industry developing healthcare applications. We welcome you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Anjali. I hope I'm audible to you.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Well, it's afternoon now, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be a part of this panel with very eminent panelists who have spoken before me. I have had the opportunity to learn a lot. Being in a university setting, and especially IP university, I feel privileged to work in such an environment where gender inclusivity, equality has never been an issue. Perhaps it's because we are a young university of only 20 years old. The previous vice chancellors and the current honorable vice chancellor have always promoted women. There has never, I have never felt that women are lesser than the male colleagues. And in fact, what I have noticed over the years, especially in my school, is that now men are in the minority as compared to women faculty. Across the spectrum, staff, students, it's very well represented by women. So that since the problems that come with imbalance of genders is certainly not seen in our university. Now, coming to the current crisis of COVID 2019, it has certainly thrown up a lot of challenges. And unfortunately, as is usual, the women are the ones who are bearing the brunt of it. There has been a lot of mental distress and financial distress, which has led to further mental distress. And this has led to increasing incidents of domestic violence that we as a university need to address. While there have been webinars on happiness, on how to maintain your mental health during this time of crisis, the webinar that we've had today is the first step in looking at issues specific to what is going on in the world right now. And this domestic violence, increased domestic violence, is not just an Indian problem. It is being seen globally that women are bearing the brunt of this crisis. In the future also, as Justice Sharma said, we will be looking at ways to how the university can help all its stakeholders, the parents, the students, the staff, and the community in addressing and trying to mitigate some of the problems that are happening because of the current COVID 2019 situation. I'm sure, as before, the university and its staff will rise to this challenge, and we will continue to make great strides in the future. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Back to you, Anjali.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for enlightening us about the planned activities of the Women Task Force of our university, and also sharing the initiatives which are taken by our university for the women empowerment and human rights and women's rights. Thank you, ma'am. Now, moving further, now I request Professor Kanwal D.P. Singh, ma'am, Director Legal Aid Center, to please share the concluding remarks with us. Ma'am is seasoned academician and a senior professor in University School of Law and Legal Studies. Ma'am has started her career as a lecturer in Amethi Law School, and she was promoted as professor in 2008 in Amethi University and joined GGSIP University in 2013. Ma'am is a member of different advisory committees, Board of Studies, research and associated with various expert committees. Ma'am has authored the books on land laws and legal control of capital market. Ma'am has also organized class 2011 and also organized entrance exam for DRDO. Her specialization in the areas of taxation, land laws, corporate laws, and laws property. And we welcome you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Anjali, for your kind words. It's a pleasant afternoon and a very pleasant afternoon to each one of us present here. As we come to the end of this web panel discussion, I feel that the greatest challenge of this gathering is to give voice to women everywhere whose experiences go unnoticed and the voices go unheard. We are the primary caretakers for most of the world's children and elderly, yet the work we do is not valued by economists, not by historians, not by culture, and not even by government leaders. Speaking to you today, I speak for all those women who are not recognized, and I feel that Emma Watson has rightly put in that we should see gender as a spectrum instead of two sets of opposing ideas. I take this opportunity to present the concluding report. The panel discussion started with our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Mahesh Verma, who addressed the issues by rightly pointing out that the gender equality needs to be there in all spheres to put out a balanced picture of the development in the world. He also spoke about how women leaders have managed the pandemic so well and it speaks of volumes about their capabilities and their resilience. It was followed by the program director, Professor A.K. Saini, who spoke about gender-sensitive laws in the country, and he also linked it to sustainable development and human rights. My senior colleague, Professor Saroj Sharma, spoke about the policies of UNICEF and UNESCO and the world-level efforts that are being carried out by the leaders and the Indian efforts as well. He hoped that GGSIP will make some footprints and guidelines so that we make a happy and an unbiased environment. Professor Saroj Sharma was followed by the talk of Professor Sushma Yadav, and we are really motivated by her applauding the execution of the panel discussion. Professor Sushma Yadav spoke about the cause of women and the rights given to us in the East, whereas in the West they had to struggle for it. She spoke about different waves of feminism and rightly said that the women rights need to be seen in the cultural environment. Need no special privileges, only acknowledgement for what they do. My friend and senior colleague, Professor Vinay Kapoor, spoke about the deprivation of human rights of women in the East and West. He gave us a very clear idea and nicely explained the difference of dowry and Sridhan. Sridhan gives us a right to exclusive enjoyment, and dowry is the carrying the property for somebody else's enjoyment. We are really sorry that we could not hear her completely, and we look forward to hearing her again. This was followed by a very academic as well as practical discussion by the Honorable Judge Swan Kanta Sharma ji. He spoke with so much passion and narrated it to us that women need to empower. They don't need any empowerment. They just need to stand by their fellow women, and she gave us a very different perspective of equality, and we really are able to align ourselves with her thoughts. Her speech was really well said and apt that laws are there. We need to get the courage in ourselves to see that the laws are implemented and we are able to exercise our rights. Finally, we had our colleague, Professor Udita Taneja, who spoke about how the Task Force of Women strives to work for the development of women in the university itself. As the seminar comes to an end, I thank every one of you for having interest in this and finding time, despite your busy schedule, to attend this panel discussion. First and foremost, I would like to express our profound gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Padma Shri Dr. Mahesh Verma, for presiding over the function and inspiring us by his address. We are fortunate to have the gracious presence of luminaries like the Honorable Judge, the esteemed Vice Chancellors, and renowned professors in their own domain. We are extremely thankful for this academic partnership. A big thank you to the Honorable Judge, and I am sure, ma'am, that the participant had an intellectual feast today from your bounty of academic scholarship. My thanks are due to Professor Sushma Yadav for her encouraging words. It is pertinent to mention that Professor Vinay Kapoor, my senior colleague, is her own amicus curiae, and she has never said no to any of our requests. I extend the most sincere thanks to you, ma'am. My thanks are due to Professor S.K. Saini for his unparalleled involvement in the planning and execution of this event. I record my sincere thanks to the team, Professor Saroj Sharma, Professor Udita Taneja, Dr. Anjali Shakeen, Dr. Amit Sharma, who has wholeheartedly participated in organizing the event. The research scholars of our university are our real strength, the real players, ever ready for anything. I will be failing in my duties if I do not acknowledge the contributions of Bani and Rajini, who have gone beyond their comfort zone to organize this thing. I hope this event becomes the beginning for the future academic endeavors amongst all of us. Thank you, one and all. Over to you, Anjali.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for nicely elaborated the concluding remarks. You have covered all the talks of the panelists of today's program. Thank you, ma'am. Now we have come to end of the program, and I would like to request my colleague, Dr. Amit Sharma, to kindly deliver vote of thanks. Dr. Amit Sharma is working as Assistant Professor in University School of Management Studies. His areas of interest and research includes marketing and sales, distribution management, Internet and Social Media Marketing. He has published many papers in journals, international and national and international journals. Thank you, sir. We welcome you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It was a very nice session. We had the opportunity to listen to such high dignitaries like Professor Sushma Yadav, Professor Vinay Mehra, and Justice Swankant Sharma. And I thank all the colleagues and all the seniors, professors, and the faculty members of the University Schools of Education and Management and Law. They have contributed a lot in doing all these things, preparing all these things for the audience, and more than 100 audience were attendees were attending this and getting benefited. I also thank Professor A.K. Seni for arranging the things, and he has been always been a inspiration for all of us to do the things in a better way. And along with Dr. Anjali Shaukin and myself and all the faculty colleagues, so I wish all the best to the attendees. I hope they have benefited a lot after listening to such high level of experts in this particular field. And I wish them all the best. And with these words, I think we'll be closing. And before that, there'll be Gayatri Mantra being played by Banipreet. So Banipreet, you may start with the Gayatri Mantra. So we come to the end. We come to the end of the session. So you can give your concluding remarks, and we can exit after that. Dr. Anjali Shaukin.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Banipreet. Thanks to everyone present here. Now we are ending the session. Stay safe, stay blessed. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anjali.